when you experience postpartum, all sorts of things change and your bucket is drained. And we could talk about that ad nauseum, but basically your bucket is drained and you start every day. And days don't really start and end postpartum. And people didn't know, you kind of just get naps in between here and there. And so your bucket never gets a refill with a good night's sleep. And so you're kind of running on empty all the time.
Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of the Birth Lounge podcast. Hey, I have an ask for you. If this show has ever given you good information, helped you advocate for yourself, connected you with someone who has taught you something, or you just genuinely love to hear the episodes each week and look forward to our podcast, I would be so forever grateful if you would head to wherever you listen, whether that be iTunes or Google Play or Spotify, and leave a 5-star review. I love to hear your sweet words, and I genuinely read every single one of the reviews because not only does it help me know that I'm on the right track and serving you in the way that you want to be served, but it also gives me ideas of how I can better the podcast to serve you even deeper. In addition to that, it helps me keep the podcast completely free for you. When we show our sponsors that people are tuning in, loving the show, eager to hear the topics, and loving the guests that we're having on, then it helps them be eager to show up and continue to help us keep this space, A, coming to you twice a week, and B, completely free for you to listen to. So if you have just 60 seconds to spare, I truly, from the very bottom of my heart, would be super duper grateful if you could just share a few words, a 5-star review, and just tell our sponsors and other listeners what you love about the show and maybe even some topics or a guest that you want to hear from. Now, on to today's episode. I'm so honored to be being joined by Dr. Candice Wood, who is an OB-GYN who has spent the last 18 years providing comprehensive wellness, gynecological, and obstetric care for women of all ages. However, over the years, Dr. Wood has watched her own patients struggle to achieve wellness and confidence in themselves during postpartum. With doctor visits only getting shorter and shorter and the bare minimum being done by our healthcare system, Dr. Wood found that there was absolutely no possible way that she could truly help young mothers who were struggling with mental health issues during postpartum. And she found that finding another mental health provider to care for her patients during these times was equally as challenging. So she did what any good woman would do, and she followed her heart. She followed her passion, and she set a goal to actually make a difference. She obtained a certification in perinatal mood disorder psychotherapy and pharmacotherapy, and she started what we all know as Woman Made Well, a clinic with one mission, and that is to achieve wellness through a proactive pursuit of both physical and mental health. In today's episode, we're going to talk about what does perfection look like in motherhood, and is it actually possible to be the perfect mother? If you had to rank yourself 1 out of 10 on how you show up for your family and your kids, Where would you rank yourself? How does that make you feel about yourself, about your competency as a mom, about the things that you do in and day out? Does it bring up some ill feelings towards maybe being a mom or the loss of freedom that you experienced when you became a mom? Or even worse, maybe it brings up some ill intent towards your partner. We're going to talk about the hard things like postpartum rage and what do you do when you do mess up, when you yell, when you lose your temper, when you absolutely go batshit crazy. How do you repair that, not only within yourself, but with your partner and with your kids? We're also going to dive into the pressures of social media and how it can falsely make you feel like you have to do everything all the time for everyone and strive to be this quote unquote superwoman. And then finally, we're going to talk about how do you get your partner to actually be engaged? How do you get them to show up in a way that you need, you want, you desire? How do you get them to care for you and your children? How do you get them to come home from work and instead of plopping their butt in a chair, they come and give you a hug and they take on the responsibilities of cooking dinner and they take out the garbage when they say they're going to. And on Saturday mornings, instead of heading out to golf, they give you the morning off and they recognize you in a way that makes you feel seen and heard and safe and loved and respected. Dr. Wood and I are acutely aware of the challenges that most couples face when they have a baby, and whether it be your first baby or your fifth baby, changing that dynamic of your family is going to cause some ripples in the water. So instead of avoiding it or trying to preemptively prevent it, we instead want to give you some tips and tools and guidance on how you can prepare for it, be flexible, and overcome those challenges when you find yourself in situations that you think, oh my gosh, how did we get here? And how are we going to recover? And as always, with any taboo topic and anything that gets deep, I cry in this episode. Dr. Wood touches on some of my own fears as I'm getting ready to have my own baby, and she touches on things that are coming up for me as I'm navigating this space, trying to, you guessed it, prepare for having a baby, enter my relationship, and set expectations for what that might do to our family dynamics. So grab the tissues and get cozy because we are going deep, deep, deep. We're probably going to bring up some hard feelings in you, and I want you to know that you're safe to feel those things. I want you to cry if that comes up for you. I want you to be angry if that comes up for you. And then I want you to know that you can move through those emotions in a safe and constructive way, that on the other end of them, you'll be better and you'll be able to better show up for your family and hopefully navigate some tough conversations with your partner with love and compassion, which will enable them to better show up for you. All right, you guys, let's dive right in. Dr. Wood, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm super stoked to have you on the show. Your Instagram is one of the most interesting to me. I feel like every time I see your face scroll across my screen, I'm like, oh, she spoke to my heart and she said exactly what I needed to hear today. And so I had my team reach out to you, and I'm very honored that you said yes and that you're sharing your time with us and that you are sharing your wisdom with us. Big thank you for being here today for sure. Before we dive in, I would love to kind of set the stage on what we're going to talk about because I think that, when I have OB-GYNs on the show, a lot of times people think we're going to be talking about OB-GYN stuff, and that's actually not why I had you on the show today. We're going to be talking about mom stuff and not necessarily gynecological stuff. We're not going to be talking about surgery. We're not going to be talking about birth prep. We're going to be talking about something a little bit more taboo. So there are two big overarching conversations that I want to tackle today. Number one is this idea of trying to live up to the perfect mom, which does not exist in the
Yep.
idea that I think a lot of us think it does. I personally believe that being the perfect mom is showing up for yourself and your family and your
Hmm.
kids in the way that they need to show up, in the way that, they get their joy and that you can love them the best. And then the
Yep.
second thing, partly, or maybe even more taboo than the first, is what do we do if our partners are just unengaged, if we can't get our partners to help? And we'll start with this idea of perfectionism, and then we can maybe end on the more sensitive topic. Because I think there's a lot of women out there who, they just heard that and it was probably twofold. They were like, yes, I want to know. But then it was also, ugh, but that sucks to have to admit that my partner is not showing up
Hmm.
in a way
Yep.
that I need them to. So before we do all that, you guys, and we're not going to shame your partners too much in this
No,
episode, but
no.
we'll start with this idea of perfectionism. Social media it's great in some aspects. It really it connected us. I'm great
Hmm.
at
Hmm.
connecting me with people. But it also has this really nefarious way of eating away at our mental health. And
Yep.
I think sometimes it can make us feel like everyone around us, everyone in the world has their shit together, has their life together, has this perfect, picture perfect, clean home. And that's just not the truth. Talk to us a little bit, because one of my favorite things that I hear you talk about on social media is that, you know, being the perfect mom just doesn't exist. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm a little bit older than you, and so there are some days that I remember, and I entered motherhood a little bit before the social media craze. Like, I did not have an Instagram account when I birthed my first child and when I started my career. So I've kind of had the luxury of a bird's eye view of how social media has changed perspectives on motherhood and how it's affected my patients. And I would say that it probably wasn't something I first recognized and just saw over time how much it was playing at my mother's emotions and their expectations that they were setting for themselves. And it was a negative effect, 100%. And I always tell my patients, when you think about your own mother or somebody even 20 years ago, 100 years ago, they had the expectations that were set by the small community around them, how they were raised, the friends that lived on their same street, maybe a church community, maybe a friend community, maybe a work community. But they weren't seeing people from all over the world, how they lived, the house they had, the vacations they took, the things that they were teaching their kids. Now we are bombarded from the day our baby's born with the fact that we didn't have a cute enough outfit to take our baby home in. We didn't have the cute setup to take the month pictures each month and posted them perfectly. We didn't have the vacation planned for our baby moon, and we didn't get a pushing gift. And our house is smaller than this luxury mansion that all these moms I see have. It's incredible the pressure that we are put under from what we see. Comparison is a natural thing. It's actually a healthy thing in our brain to help us see what we might want to do or what we could challenge ourselves to do. But in this world, the amount of comparison that is every single mom is up against that's involved in any way, shape, or form of social media, it's to such a detrimental level because it's just something that none of us can keep up with because so many different views of how to parent are shown. I think you know what I'm talking about when we see the families are like, we decided to sell our house and everything, and now we're touring Europe as a family of six. It's going to be amazing. And then I think to myself, and this is actual thought, like, wait, should I do that? Oh my goodness, that would be an amazing experience. And then you have the other ones where it's just like they have their kids in the best preschools because that's going to be how they get them to all the Ivy League schools. Oh my goodness, I didn't even think about preschool yet. My baby was just born, but on social media, it says that I should already have them enrolled in a preschool. So it's just incredibly overwhelming, the gamut of ways we can see that we're failing. It's not just in keeping a clean house, it's also in all the other perspectives. So it's really important. I sit down with each of my patients and I ask them in our first visit, I say, rank yourself as a mom. One being the worst in the world. Maybe you totally neglect your baby to go out and get the crack cocaine, or 10 being practically perfect in every way, like Mary Poppins. And I have them rank, and it's amazing what I see because I have these incredible moms who regularly give themselves like a 4 when they're meeting all their baby's needs. I think the highest I've ever gotten on asking that at an initial visit is about a 7. And these are moms that are meeting all of their baby's needs with a thriving infant sitting in front of both of us. But it's because their expectations are skewed. And so we dial it back and we talk about what the actual needs of the baby are. And basically, we would find out within 5 minutes that they're meeting and exceeding all of their baby's actual needs. And then I move on to, what are your goals as a mom? What are your goals as, their provider? What are your goals that you want to create for this family you've created? And we have to really think hard to make sure those goals are actually their goals and they're not coming from something from social media, or they're not coming from expectations that are set by their parents or their friends. Because I really want to whittle it down to their goals, their expectations for themselves, and what kind of family and relationship they really want to have with their kid. And that's when we can get to what you talked about, where we can find that perfection is not at all in achieving something monetarily or materially. It is 100% in a connection with your child, and a connection you're seeking when you chose or had a surprise that you were going to be a parent and that you were going to spread your genes, leave a legacy, and what that means to you. And I have finally achieved. It was really hard, HeHe. It was really hard to get a mom to give herself a 10.
Mm.
And when she did, on a follow-up visit, she said, "You're right, Dr. Wood, because I don't have to be perfect, but as long as I'm always trying, I'm a 10." And yes, we both had tears.
Yeah.
But it's so amazing when you can get a mom to see that, like, that's what this is all about. And in this world, this digital age, we can get so much good from social media, but we have to learn to recognize when it's taking us down a path of negative comparison and of where we're questioning ourselves and we're condemning our efforts. And that's when we need to stop. And you can ask my patients, there's a lot of them that are on social media fasts
Mhm.
just to see the differences. And then we talk together about how we can find the positives from social media, like your podcast. Clearly, that's an empowering podcast and Instagram account that's helping women across the world while avoiding the ones that, and a lot of them aren't intentional. We're not bad mouthing people in their Instagram accounts. A lot of people have amazing lives and it's great that they want to share it. But we just have to learn as individuals what fills our cup and what drains it.
Yeah, and a lot of it is fake. I mean, I will say
Oh, yeah.
I've been in this content creation world for quite a bit now, since around 2018. And,
Wow.
I've talked about this before, but there are so many people that I meet offline, and I walk away genuinely heartbroken because they are not at all who they portray themselves to be online. And for me,
Yep.
that's really tough because I'm the same person Monday through Sunday, and every minute that I'm awake. I mean, if you woke me up in the middle of the night, you'd still get the same me, but a little groggy. I'm the same person that I am in Boston, that I am in Alabama, that I am in California, that I am in a different country. I really live an authentic life, and I try to show up in this genuine manner. And it leaves me really wrecked emotionally when I meet somebody that I feel a connection with online, and then I meet them in person and I'm like, wow, that is so fake. And I just want to put that out there for you guys, that don't forget that when you see social media, you're only seeing 15
Mhm.
to 90 seconds of this person's life, and it's what they choose to show you. So that's even
Yep.
true for me. Now, I show up in my pajamas and I show up late at night and I show up
Yep.
without makeup,
Me
right?
too.
But yeah, but it's still what I'm choosing to show you. Privacy is very important to me and my husband. And so there are aspects of our lives that social media knows nothing about. And it's not to keep you out, it's not to, be secretive, but it's just to say that parts of our lives and our privacy is really important to us. And so I do think that sometimes it's really easy to go down this rabbit hole of thinking everybody has it together. Everybody drives a nice car. Everybody is buying a new home. Everybody's children are these sweet little angels that nap
Mm.
2 hours and go to bed in 15 minutes at 8 p.m. And then they have 2 hours afterwards to just cuddle with their partner and watch Netflix. And that is just not the reality for, I would
Yep.
say, the majority of American
Oh,
parents.
yes, yes. No, it's so true. I remember when, this dates my child rearing when it started because blogs were the huge thing then, and my mom would come and show me this blog of this amazing mom who did all these crafts, with her children, and she would show me these pictures of these magnificent parties, and I love throwing parties, and I love cooking, and so it's kind of right up my alley, but she would show me these pictures, and I would get this icky feeling, like we're talking about, of, "Wow, like, she's doing that with her 5 kids, why am I, like, not doing that with my 5 kids?" And I remember telling my mom what you're telling me, but it was more out of, like, frustration, "Stop shoving this down my face, mom," and I was like, "Mom, you know that's not real. Like, she spent all day doing the craft herself to take the perfect pictures, and her children were in a corner probably getting yelled at because she had to get this looking perfect for these pictures." And I was like, "That's not how I wanna do motherhood, but if you're sending it, like, for an idea to do a craft, thanks. But mom, she kinda stresses me out." And so luckily for me, and I think it's because all I do is work with women, and that's a huge blessing in my life,
Yeah.
I knew that's not real life. I'm a normal mom with a job that I luckily get to do part-time, and I have 5 kids. And then I talk to moms all day. What we see on the screen is literally not possible if you're trying to make connections with your actual children and trying to be what they actually need. It's not possible because in order to do that, those perfect pictures, you can't actually have the time that your children need from you. And so it's so true to remember that's a great moment. I bet you the bottle exploded right after she took that picture and she's upset cleaning up just like me. And yeah, her baby slept last night, but I bet you sometime this week she'll be up all night. And we don't want to wish negative things on people, but it is important to recognize that they're showing us the best glimpses. And often, if we would look and if we could have the highlight reel, which thanks to some of our phones, sometimes we actually do get highlight reels every once in a while that make me super happy about my life. We would have an amazing glimpse at our lives too if we got to see it that way.
Yeah. And the psychology background in me says that both highs and lows are important in life, and high
Yes.
and low emotions are
Yes.
important for our emotional regulation. Not to
For
that
sure.
we want to get into a slump and stay there, but to say that if you're able to go through these hard phases in parenthood and motherhood and life, it makes those high points in life
Yep.
even sweeter. And it reminds you that you're strong and you're capable and you
Mm.
get through hard things. You can do hard things. And
Yep.
sometimes it's just a phase that we find ourselves in.
Yep. And I think you realize after the first kid and moving on to the second, most of the time that's an easier transition with the parenting part because of what you just said. You actually know, oh, my child actually will end up being able to communicate with me other than crying to tell me what they need. Oh, sleeping actually does get better. Feeding gets better. And you know that and you can handle those things better. But in the first time when you don't have that insight, it can be very difficult. But you're totally right about the highs and lows. I think that's so key because I think that if we don't recognize, I mean, if motherhood, I mean, the truth of it is when you think back over your life, and I talk about my this to my patients all the time, if you think back about your life and you think about the things you're most proud of, none of them are anything that was handed to you on a silver platter. They're always the things that you worked really hard at, that you actually didn't think you would be able to do, and you did it. Those are the things that define your character, make you who you are, and that bring you that pride. And that's true of anything. And one of my favorite clients, patients told me, emotions are really important and negative emotions are important too. Just don't unpack in them, move through them. And so no camping in the sad feelings, but recognize, have them because it does, like you said, help you recognize how great the highs are. And it makes all of this mothering so worth it.
Yeah, I just find it so helpful and beneficial. And I know this is going to carry through into motherhood when I have this baby, but it's always been helpful for me to remember that this is a phase. This will
Yep.
come to an
100%.
end. There is something better on the other end, or there is a place in life where I do figure out this problem. My challenge that I'm facing right now is not my forever, it's just my
Nope.
right now, and I think that is super super helpful. Okay, Dr. Wood, tell us what a 10 out of 10 mom looks like. So when you think about these women who are sitting in your office and you're like, you are a total 10, and you want to take them by the shoulders and shake them and say, come on, wake up. You're like doing everything perfect. How are they showing up for themselves, for their families, for their children? What kind of things did they exhibit that make you go, holy cow, this is such a good mom sitting in front of me?
Well, it's funny because when I started focusing my whole career and job on this, I didn't really know what to expect, how it would feel doing less pap smears and turning more towards this. But all I have to say is it's been incredible because I have gotten to see and meet and become a part of so many amazing women's inner lives. And it's been incredible because women are amazing. I think we all knew that, but I know it even more now. I feel, and I tell this, and I 100% believe it, any woman who shows up and sits on my navy blue couch is an incredible mom because she has chosen to put being a good mom over her own pride, anxiety, nervousness, awkwardness. Some patients already know me. Some patients, their doctors just referred them. Some of them have found me online, but they're choosing, I'm going to go tell this woman my whole heart and soul. I'm going to be super vulnerable with her. This woman I don't know, this crazy redhead that I do not know, because I want to be a good mom. And so baseline already, like you scored like 82 points right there. Because that's incredible. Because that's hard. That's very hard to do. And that's, why I already know they're all good moms because they're putting them, being a good mom over their own pride, like I said. Second, what I see, what really makes me feel like, shaking them to say, why are you even questioning whether you're good or not, is the women that are 100% focused on their child and the effort is all there. And then I have to help them see that maybe if they dial back a little bit and take a little care of themselves and take a little care of their relationship, they'll actually potentially be able to be better moms. But their effort is so focused on creating this perfect life for their child. And, that's usually the bigger issue I have to work with is trying to help them figure out that balance with all things is actually the key to being the most effective mother, partner, employee, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, that's kind of, I really feel like it's a hard question because I really feel like every mom who shows up to talk to me, like, fits the criteria of awesomeness in motherhood department because of just the character trait that they show by showing up to an appointment like that. And I don't know if I'm conveying that correctly, but it is 100% true because it is a hard thing to come and say, I feel like a crap mom, please help me.
Yeah. No, that's exactly the answer I expected you to say. One of the most helpful things that my therapist has said to me on this journey is that it's impossible for you to be a bad mom because you're already thinking so deeply about
Yep.
how to be a good mom. And she said that in
Exactly.
itself just shows, you may not always get it right, but that's not
You
the
have to.
goal, right?
Yeah.
Not the goal. And you actually wouldn't want your children to grow up in a world where they had this
Yep.
really perfect mom that never got it wrong. Think about the pressure that would put
Oh,
on
yeah.
your child. They would
Mhm.
never think that mistakes were okay. They would never have somebody be able to model making a
Yep.
mistake and then repairing that. And then how do you overcome anything that happened because of the mistake? You want
Yep.
to be able to make mistakes in front of and with your children so that you
Yep.
can model to them how to be resilient. So I think everybody's kind of familiar with the 80-20 rule where you strive to get it right 80% of the time, and you've got 20% of the time that you can kind of mess up, and we're not going to mess our kids up. Do you agree with that rule, or is there something similar that you teach your clients?
Oh, I 100% agree with it. And I have a lot of moms who come in and say, I yelled at my kids and we go through this experience, or, I failed because of this. And I'm always like, okay, great. All of us do that. It's what you do after. Because if you admit it and have a nice conversation, of course, if you had a baby, you don't need to apologize to the baby per se. It might be good for your soul to actually do it. But when your kids are a little bit older, it is such a healthy experience, just like you talked about, to come back to your child and say, hey, sweets, mom totally was off base. What you did, it wasn't the greatest thing ever, but no excuse for me to lose my temper like that. Mommy screws up sometimes, 100% true, and I'm so sorry because that probably made you feel bad, made me feel bad. Do you forgive me? She's gonna or he's gonna say, "Yes, mommy," because they already forgot about it. I've been there, I've done this, and by the time I come and do this, they are like, "What are you talking about, mom?" I remember a specific experience, and I was like, "No, I was really out of line," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" But it is so important for your kids, again, especially when they're older, to see you who they idolize. Your children, whether you deserve it or not, will idolize you. And so when they see the person who they idolize admit they did something wrong, say they're sorry, and then move on, it does exactly what you said. It allows them to realize, "Oh, so if I screw up, I could be honest to mom about it. I could apologize. She'll still love me." Oh, whoa, weight lifted. And
Mm.
that's such a healthy relationship to allow in your home. And so 100%, I love the 80-20. And I just, I'm a big pusher of the effort. Like, I tell my patients that at the end of the day, I really always want them to think about something that went really well. And in the early postpartum stages, I really like you to write it down because it really helps you see the growth, that because what you are impressed with day 1, you'll laugh at in 2 weeks that you thought that was really amazing because you do it in your sleep now, and so you'll see your growth. But I allow you and then actually encourage you to think, "What didn't go so well?
Mm.
And what could I do differently to try to handle that better?" And then the most important part, let it go. Because there's no sense in dwelling parenting, again, my oldest is 14 now, like, it just passes so fast, and it's what is true and important today will not be true and important in 6 months, and so there is 0 reason to get hung up on it. You just keep moving and keep improving and itching away. It's just like I feel like everyone as a mom is creating this beautiful chiseled statue, and you just keep chiseling away. There's no point in dwelling and making a big hole somewhere. You just keep chiseling away, and you're gonna eventually get to end up with that exact statue that you were aiming for, guided by the things you learn from the world around you and your kids. You hear this all the time if you ever listen to me talk. I just feel like I've done some cool things in my life. I had some amazing experiences, but the most amazing, hands down, is being a mother. The 5 most days that I would choose to go back to, and I always say 5 because I have 5 kids, but I only have 4 deliveries. I would go back to those days. And if somebody said, "What day do you wanna go back to?" It would be one of those 4. I love my wedding day, but my partner was there at the deliveries, and so I'll take those deliveries. It's just it is the most, like, motherhood is the refiner's fire, and it is the most beautiful experience to go through to end up reaching your potential as a woman. And it's the most amazing thing, and that's why I'm so passionate about helping moms find that in motherhood instead of what so many women actually find is, feeling like they've lost their identity, unhappiness, anxiety, stress, and hence why I do what I do.
I love that so much. I also imagine that repairing with your child and apologizing to them is not only healing for them, but it's got to be healing for so many of us that didn't get that as
Yep,
children.
yep,
And we still have wounds from how our parents didn't show up for us. I know that I
yep,
didn't grow up in a home that regularly apologized in many things, including reparations and emotions and fights and intense moments were just kind of glossed over, swept under the rug, and you were just expected to kind of move on. And I think
yep.
that so many of us show up in parenting now as adults, as unhealed adults. And those wounds can sometimes come back up in our parenting. Can you share
Yep,
a little bit
100%.
about that? Maybe what it looks like and maybe how you can recognize that in yourself, and then what could you do if you realize, oh, uh-oh, I'm really kind of parenting from this unhealed place and my kids don't deserve that, and I deserve to be able to parent from a place of freedom and joy and peace.
Well, and again, I think that's the thing that I found about the transition to motherhood. Transitions are really important pivot points in life where a lot of change can be made because it's a point when we kind of notice things. We can get by in life as a child that had a lot of, missing puzzle pieces to their upbringing. We can get by, and I see some incredible women that when I actually learn about their past, I, cannot believe what they've been able to accomplish, and I'm like, am, impressed beyond words with who they are. But when you meet a transition point of motherhood where you're kind of often meeting those missing puzzle pieces head on with realizing the loss or the thing you didn't get, and then the potential to repeat or do differently, whether you're realizing it or not. It's an incredibly powerful position to be in to make those changes. And, there's women who know, without a doubt that there was shortcomings in their childhood. And for any of those moms in pregnancy, when you know that you were abused, you know that you had, parents who were constantly fighting and then ended up in a broken marriage. Many examples. Those women I would encourage in pregnancy to go talk to somebody, find a relationship with a therapist that they trust to try to figure out what puzzle pieces were left missing from that, what they wish they had, and help them see what they didn't get to try to work on that healing before the baby comes, obviously, that's ideal. There's a lot of us, and there's an amazing book by Gabor Mate, The Myth of Normal, if you haven't heard or read that one, it's a phenomenal, but he talks about how so many of us say we had this normal childhood and there wasn't anything. And then when he asks his questions, and mainly being like, so when you were scared or lonely and when this thing happened, who did you go to talk to? And it's shocking because 'cause I'm one of them who would have said I had a great upbringing, and I really did, but I did not have anybody to go to talk to about so many things. And that's siblings and parents where I felt like there was nobody that I could trust. And I love that he talks about in the book how as infants, babies never don't communicate what they want. We come out of the womb with a natural tendency to like, I will cry if I am cold, I will cry if I am wet, I will cry if I'm hungry, I will get what I want, and I will keep crying until I have that. And some babies keep crying too, even once they have everything. But then somehow between that and later, we lose that feeling of the ability to openly say what we feel and communicate our needs. And that's like where something's lost because that's not a natural tendency that we have. And so recognizing that even with me, when I was reading that book, I was like, oh, wow. And how has that left me? what needs or what has that made me try to do to feel that? And how can I give that space to my children? And I think when I really think about what our children need, it really is us being there. And I think we could simplify it down to knowing that they also need that. They need to feel like they can trust us. They need to feel like they can communicate with somebody. And that's why, because I think it can get overwhelming with everything that motherhood entails to feel like I also have to like fix this thing that I didn't have and fix that thing that I didn't have, and I have to fill all these pieces. Oh no, oh no. Your kid just needs to feel connected to you and keep the door open so that they know if they're scared, they're hurt, they're sad, that they're allowed to share those things with you. In fact, that's like their job because as your mom, you want to protect them. You want to cheerlead them. You want to support them as you help them develop their independence. And when they don't communicate with you, you can't do that anymore. And so focusing on how we can keep, and I think that's with unconditional love, and that happens with the apologizing that we've talked about. That's when a child says, "Oh, so if I break the plate and tell mom she's not going to punish me and not love me anymore. She's going to let me say sorry and we're going to figure out a way to fix it if we can. And she's still going to love me because she doesn't love me because of what I do. She loves me because of who I am. And that's her child."
So if you didn't grow up in a home like that and you did grow up in a home that was punitive or had maybe a narcissistic parent, or you did grow up in an abusive home, or you just didn't have anybody that modeled this
Yeah.
healthy space of safety and unconditional love, how do you facilitate that when you don't even know what it looked like when you were a kid? How are you supposed to almost dig that out of thin air?
Oh, it can be so hard, and that's why I would want everybody here, like, if they're really struggling with this, it's really great to meet with a therapist to talk exactly, like, specifics from your case, and to talk about how you feel about your baby, because that's something that I do. What are your interactions with your child? What do you enjoy? What do we have to build off of? What's your relationship with your partner? Are they present? How does that work? And we also again, we start real small. What are your goals of what you think you want? What kind of relationship with your child do you want? If, when they're 6 years old and they're writing a sentence about their mom, what do you hope they say? And if we can start from the relationship you want, then we can kind of dial backward. Okay, how do you get that? And it can be very difficult for some people to recognize how they should be loved and how they should be treated because they've spent their whole life, like, taking whatever they got and filling in the rest rather than recognizing, "Oh, I deserve to be loved unconditionally by my partner, by my parents, by my friends." And some people don't understand that. And so that's why it is hard to teach that potentially, but it can be done with specific examples in a one-on-one experience. But I do think most people from some good movies, have seen a loving relationship from a mom and a child, a loving relationship between a husband and wife where it is a selfless love that they are the priority. And so we can start to mimic those things. And I want you to pay attention to how you feel when you unconditionally love your child and you sacrifice as a mom during those first 6 to 8 weeks completely and then maybe get a little bit more sleep after that. When you How do you feel? Like you're super tired, but when that baby's laying on you, when that baby reaches out to you, and when you pick up that baby and that baby calms, how does that feel? That is what selfless love feels like. And then we take baby steps further. Okay, what does that mean when I have a toddler and the toddler doesn't listen to me? Okay, how do I feel when the child doesn't listen to me? I feel frustrated. But the toddler is learning, like they're experiencing the world and they don't like understand everything right now. So It's not that they're trying to disobey me. It's not that they're purposely not listening to me. It's they're trying to experience this. So how could I work and show them love, but also still be teaching them in that field? And it's step by step. And as as a person who hasn't been able to receive that before starts experiencing it, because children give unconditional love. They give it whether we deserve it or not. But as you start feeling that, that's what you want to learn to give back. And again, very difficult, but I think case by case, if you're listening to this and you feel, oh my goodness, like I don't even understand what she's talking about. Like, I don't know that I feel that. I've never been given that. Then yes, please go talk to somebody. Talk to somebody about your specific interactions, and you can get a game plan about how you can start experiencing those things, those feelings. And I'm a big believer that love heals everything. And if you can be guided by goals, small steps, you can get there to becoming the mom that you never had. And even moms, even those of us who had a really great mom who was doing her best, like we always have the opportunity to even do more to allow our children to have that complete unconditional love and that person that they know they can run to. And I have to tell you, like I had just finished his book, and then my 14-year-old daughter like reached out to me about something that I had never talked to my parents about. And I had this moment of, okay, I'm screwing up on X, Y, and Z on the daily, but she talked to me about that. And so that's a win. And those are so important in motherhood because we don't have wins every day. So we have to hold on to the ones where we really feel like we do.
Yeah, I think people can sometimes misattribute wins to things that don't really matter, like always having a spotless house or like having the nicest iPhones or the next up and coming Nintendo at Christmas for your kids, where really the things that truly matter is being that safe space, is being
Yep.
that person
Mhm.
that your 14-year-old can come to. I don't know why I'm
Yep.
crying. I just think that so many of us didn't get that when we were growing
Yeah.
up. I know that I've got this baby coming and it's definitely on my mind of how am I going to facilitate that safe space. I want to be that person. And since it's my first baby, I don't really know how to do it. And I hope I can figure it out.
Oh, you know exactly what your therapist said. The fact that you're already thinking about it. It was the same advice my older brother gave me. And we were talking about some of the funny things that our parents did and interesting things that we experienced in our family growing up. And I said, oh my goodness, Ryan, what do you think my kids are going to say about me?
And
And he was
tell their
very,
therapist.
yeah, exactly. And he was very quick to respond. He says, well, I already know it's going to be a lot less because you're thinking about it. And I mean, we can make this show all about you. You have the most lovely heart in the entire world. And the fact that that's your greatest concern is working for that connection, it's just like it's going to come. And I really believe that you're going to feel the same thing I just talked about. Once you feel that connection with your child and you feel what your effort gives back from that child, it's going to be a natural transition for you. And you're gonna see, because I feel like we're in this new generation that is, yes, we have the social media nightmare to deal with, but I also feel like we are caring about these things.
Yeah.
And we are placing a priority on our relationships with our kids and having that meaningful connection with them, and we're recognizing that's the foundation that they need. It's not the material things or the best school. Their success is really going to be dependent on the fact that they have a sure foundation built on, yeah, it's ideal if we have two parents, of course, but it's built on a sure foundation of somebody that is stable and safe for them. And I love that that's what you're focused on. And that's why, I appreciate your stress about it, because that means you understand how important it is. But
Yeah.
I want you to know from somebody who has sat with women at your same space so many times, you've got this, because it's your desire and it's going to be your focus. And when it is, and when you're not caught up with all the other things that aren't what you or your child needs, it will be, you know, what happens. It will be what you develop, and it will be the relationship that you have with your child. And when something doesn't go well, you're going to check yourself and say, wow, man, I made that about me instead of about her or him. And, you know, I'm gonna talk to him about that. I'm gonna try again tomorrow.
Mm,
And I'm gonna let it go, and I'm gonna move on because tomorrow's a new day.
yeah, I appreciate you saying that. And I look forward to those moments. I look forward to the growth that motherhood is going to bring. And I look forward to learning new things and doing things differently in the home that I was raised in. And I don't know, I feel very lucky to be having this baby, and I already feel
Yay.
so connected to them.
Yay.
I'll share a little resource that I found super helpful. And this is not anything that I should reread it now that I'm probably about to have a baby, but it's Dr. Terry Brazelton's book, you guys. He is amazing. He was one of my mentors when I was going through grad school and doing all of my early childhood development education. And when I was in the classroom, I pretty much based all of my teachings around his ideations and his research of child development. So if you're out there being like, I just don't understand my child, I don't understand where they are developmentally, I'm not sure how to connect with a 1 year old, I'm 35, what do we possibly have in common?
Mhm.
Up on to Dr. Terry Brazelton's book, and it will give you really great, easily
Awesome.
digestible information about your child's development. And for me, it was a life changer. It was such a game changer of how I showed up as a teacher. And I didn't realize it at the time because I was, you know, young and dumb and just like in a career that I loved. And motherhood was not on my mind 15 years ago, but it has stuck with me. And now I'm taking what I learned 15 years ago
Good.
and now applying it to motherhood. And it feels comforting. I think that, me having that knowledge has given me some confidence to be able to go into motherhood and say, I'll know what each developmental milestone is like, and I'll know what each developmental stage looks like, and what I can expect from that child, and what is normal, even though it seems very frustrating to me as an adult.
Yep.
I'll be able to say, this is a normal 3-year-old behavior. This is a normal 1-year-old behavior. This is a
Yep.
normal whatever age behavior. Teenagers, have their own behaviors where you're like, oh,
Yes.
this person is a psychopath. And you're like, actually, it's very normal for
Pretty
teenagers to
normal.
act like this.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so we've done a lot of talking about emotions, and I think one of the things that catches most people off guard, or in my experience of being a doula and helping so many women through this, is postpartum rage. And we don't talk a lot about postpartum rage. We don't talk a lot about being angry at the situation that you're in, that you have become a mom, you've lost your identity, you've lost your freedom, you can't really leave your home for more than an hour and a half at a time because your baby eats every 2 hours and you're the only person that can feed them because they won't take a bottle. You're maybe even angry at your baby, you're angry at your new lifestyle and routines. Maybe that anger even is directed sometimes at your partner. What do we need to know about postpartum rage and how we might be able to move through that experience?
Well, it's important to recognize that postpartum rage is really anxiety. Anxiety presents in multiple different ways. We think of anxiety mainly as I'm stressed about a situation and I'm kind of panicky, but stress and anxiety can present also as irritability and rage. And so break it down to if you're feeling ragey and it's atypical for you, we know that you're stressed about something. And, it is incredibly common postpartum. I talk to my patients about how I really liken being stable or euthymic to having a full bucket of water to handle all the fires of life. So when you experience postpartum, all sorts of things change and your bucket is drained. And we could talk about that ad nauseum, but basically your bucket is drained and you start every day. And days don't really start and end postpartum. And if people didn't know, you kind of just get naps in between here and there. And so your bucket never gets a refill with a good night's sleep. And so you're kind of running on empty all the time. And so you can imagine if you have a forest fire and you're running on empty, you use what you can, but you never get ahead of the fire, and the fire is the rage. When we have all our bucket full, we can usually handle anything that happens and say, "Okay, this is annoying me, but I'll do this. This is stressful, but I have this." But when you don't have that full bucket, anything that isn't just perfect, which almost nothing in life is perfect, and especially postpartum, you get ragey, and it's just people present differently with how their anxiety presents, how their stress presents, and rage is one of the most common. So if you recognize that, you can take a step back and say, "Okay, I'm not losing my mind. Dr. Wood just said that I'm not losing my mind. I need to fill my bucket. And how can I fill my bucket?" Things that fill your bucket are sleep, of course. Sleep is such an important thing to make plans for postpartum in advance. It's the one thing you can try to get support with the most is to get sleep. So get sleep. Use your friends, family to get sleep in between feeds. Then mindfulness activities, things where you are connecting with yourself that bring you peace. Meditation is hard for a lot of people, but I challenge all of my moms postpartum, and if I can catch them before, figure out a way for yourself to find peace, whether it's breathing techniques, whether it's actually meditating, whether it's a meditation app, whether for you it's 15 minutes on the stair climber. I still count that as meditations. Anything that gets you out of your head, brings peace and clears your mind so that you're not analyzing your to-do list because we want a piece of zen. Spending time with people that you value and make you feel valued, also a bucket filler. So definitely make sure you're surrounded by the people who are your cheerleaders in life. And if they don't live close by, schedule FaceTime talks with them, keep texting with them because those are bucket fillers. Getting outside of the house at least 5 minutes, but preferably 10 minutes a day, sorry, 20 minutes a day. I say 5 minutes because I live in Arizona, and right now, if I tell my moms to stay outside in the 115 degrees more than 5 minutes, I might be sending them to the ER as well, but we need that sun. It's been study proven that time outside decreases anxiety and depression, so get outside. In addition to that, postpartum is a time where you feel like you get caged in and
Mm.
your day becomes a groundhog day, one day after another on a 2.5 to 3 hour cycle. And so it is really great to break that up and drive to your favorite drive-through and get yourself a drink or go walk Target. Sometimes I recommend leaving the credit card and phone outside because now that we can pay on our phones, you can spend a lot of money on accident at Target. So I don't want to cause problems monetarily for people, but go walk the halls of Target just to have a moment, just getting outside of your house. So those are just some things off the top of my head that really you can make in that, postpartum window when life is hard to really fill your bucket, take some time for yourself, and that will allow you to potentially catch yourself before you actually act on the anger that you feel. And with time, the things that are irritating will irritate you less as your bucket is fuller and as you're feeling confident in your role of motherhood. Because that's another thing. The lack of confidence is a bucket drainer. And as soon as you feel more confident, then when you have these positive interactions with your baby and you feel confident, that fills the bucket. It's amazing. And if you feel like you're like, "Dr. Wood, dude, I tried all those things. I'm doing all those things, and I am not doing well." Again, that's another reason to talk to a healthcare provider. I'm super conservative when it comes to medications. Super conservative. I think there's a lot of things we can do with supplements and actual taking action and control of our life, a lot of therapeutic techniques, but is a point where we're headed towards a real decreased function. Our actions and our feelings are affecting outcomes, and we don't have the luxury of time to fix them, and that's when I would employ medication. And if it's postpartum rage, we're treating anxiety, so we would be talking about some medications that are safe in breastfeeding and pregnancy, which is always what I try to do whenever I'm doing medications. I know you just had a baby, but I don't like to put any mom of childbearing age on a medication that's not safe in pregnancy, so I always like to stay within that, and so we would consider a medication if you're doing everything and you're not feeling a change to help you because the postpartum rage affects your ability to bond with your child. It affects your relationship with your partner, and then it can affect your relationships with everybody, and then most importantly, it really affects how you feel about yourself, which at the end of the day, it's just like a vicious cycle.
Yeah. I know a lot of people appreciate hearing you say that you use medications very judiciously because I think a lot of people are very resistant or skeptical or apprehensive to introduce medications in postpartum. But one of the things that I have found to be super helpful for the clients that I get to serve is that this can be and often is a very temporary fix.
Yes,
It's just
100%.
kind of a stepping stone, right? To like
Yep,
get you over the hump, get you
yep,
back to a place of homeostasis almost, of balance, of normalness, so that you can start to feel like yourself, start to show up for your
yep,
baby, start to bond with your baby, repair that relationship with your partner, and then we can wean you off of that medication. And it doesn't have to be something that's long term or even lifelong, where I think that especially just being in the American healthcare system, a lot of us hear medications and we think, oh my God, well, this will be something I have to be on for the rest of my life.
yep,
And that's not true when it comes to
yep.
medications postpartum, always.
I 100% agree with you. That's a conversation I always have because just when we think about the analogy about the bucket of water, what does the medicine do? It just fills the bucket faster. And then we'll have the time to do the natural things to fill the bucket, get you back in control, get you back feeling confident, get you interacting with the people that matter most, and all the other things that I could talk about at nauseum. Then, when we're feeling really good and there's no transitions on the horizon, we will taper you off. And, typically we have you better than you ever were even before because in the interim, we've worked on really honing in on those things that make you whole, that make you confident. And I loved what you said because I think it's something so important. You said this way earlier about how authentic you are,
Mhm.
helping you live an authentic life. That is a true sign of peace and happiness, getting you to that point. That's when we can usually come off the medications without an issue. And yeah, that's always my plan. I typically, every once in a while, I have a patient who refuses, no, I'm never going back. And I'm like, well, we could try. I'm always, I allow the patients to guide things unless I'm worried. And then I still just express my opinion. But I have some women who won't go off, but most women are really excited about the fact that they see this just as a bridge and not as a permanent thing that they need. But I do see it as a bridge to allow us to do the things that fill the bucket naturally that we just, with a baby needing us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we can't do all those things all the time.
Yeah, it's simply another tool in your toolbox, you
Mhm.
guys, to use it however you want to
Yep.
use it and when you want to use it. And
Yep.
it's just, it's not a forever thing. And I think that can be super duper helpful.
Yep.
Okay, a lot of our emotions postpartum can be triggered by our partner, that lovely human we, share space with and made this baby with, and possibly even lived a life with for ages before this baby. For my
Yep.
husband and I, we've been together for 11 years before
Oh,
we
wow.
introduced a baby to our, dynamic. And yeah, we'll be just a few months shy of 12 years together when this baby is born. And it's been on my mind a lot, not in terms of will he show up or how he'll show up, but more so us losing the relationship that we have because there will be this third person in our dynamic. And I'm not concerned about my partner not being engaged or being an involved dad. That I know he'll be able to do. I'm more so worried about just us not having the time that we've had. I mean, we've had almost 12 years of
Yeah.
uninterrupted, just the two of us and our dog. And, I think that the dynamic changes when you introducing a child can be really hard on some couples and some
Yep.
relationships. And in a lot of times, or in a lot of couples, it does actually manifest as that partner, particularly males, not showing up in ways that mom or their wife wants them to, expected them to, needs them to. And I'd like to dive into that. From my perspective as a doula, many times this is because that dad doesn't know what to do. They feel very lost. They're not sure how to interact with the baby. They have never seen their wife in this state before. They were
Yeah.
unprepared for postpartum. They're also sleep deprived, not as much
Yep.
as you, mom, but they are also experiencing this transition in their own way, from their own lens. And I just find that males oftentimes are not able to move through those emotions and that experience as easily as moms. And maybe it's not even an easy type thing. Maybe it's just that moms don't have the luxury to step out. You don't
Yep.
get the option to be unengaged with your baby where dads can. And a lot of times they leave the home to work. And so that's helpful for them where moms will say, well, I never even get to leave the house. Like, I can't even remember the last time my nails got to be done because this baby needs me. So, can we just dive into this a little bit about, why do we think partners sometimes become this different human once you have a baby, and how important it is to have conversations before your baby is born about expectations? And then what do we do if our partners are really unengaged and not showing up for us in the way that we need postpartum?
Yeah, and it's a very important issue, and I would say a significant percentage of my visits, and sometimes they're my least favorites because when it involves another person that neither of us can control, it's often difficult, but it's super important. And why is it important? Because 2 people made a baby, and we need that triangle to stay strong, and it is often a dividing point instead of a coming together point if not done well. And what I love about you already is I love when I have a pregnant mom who is already expressing a little bit of fear about the change and losing that close relationship. Because why do I love that? I love it because you have something that you're sad about changing, which means you have something special. And so I hope that's for everybody out here who's thinking that's the kind of relationship they have, because that is beautiful. So that's where we're starting with. And we're starting with something that we love so much. And I want you to think about what you love so much, what makes you guys special. Because what we need to do is figure out how to keep that postpartum. And everything's easier before the baby comes. And so thinking about what do I actually love about him? It doesn't mean that, I mean, I don't think it whittles down to, I love that we spend 40 hours river rafting a week and, oh crap, we'll never be able to do that again. And it's very rarely something that is completely undoable. It's more the connection that you guys have, and it's usually time in a certain way. And so recognizing that and then saying, okay, and with when I have the luxury of meeting with a patient before, we talk about that. Okay, how can we do that forward? And we talk about the support that you'll have that'll allow you guys to have time together. We talk about how we can modify it in that new interim when time is just so precious and sleep is actually more crucial than anything, and we modify and we come up with things that work, even if it means that you guys, it's 15 minutes of cuddling, watching TV while you're nursing or feeding the baby that you guys commit to, or it's phones are always away during dinner, even if one person's holding the baby, but we are interacting. We're having a 15-minute conversation where we catch up just like we always used to. And all the moms who have babies past 6 months, 8 months, they know, and I can testify to you that the time will come back. There is a time shortly coming your way that the baby will go to bed at 7 p.m., maybe 8, depending on what you guys do, and you will not see that child for 12 hours. That's coming. And so things will come back to you, but you have to figure out what you guys prioritize. If you guys prioritize and care about time away from home, I have this lovely patient who does not stand up, improv.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's an important part of her life, and her husband too. And so they set goals like this, we're getting back to improv by 2 months. This is what we're doing. And they luckily had family to support that would allow that to have to watch their child. But if you don't have family to support, where are we gonna find somebody that we can pay to watch our child? Or how are we gonna tag team so that we can support each other in the things that we need and the things we love to do together? And so first step is figuring out what makes you and how can we change that, modify that to keep that alive in those initial stages, knowing that it will continue to blossom. People who love to travel and eat out, that doesn't need to change. Start with your children, and people hear me out this time. We always go to Taco Tuesday because I knew I was gonna have a big family, and they needed to know how to behave in a restaurant, and the people all know me at the restaurant 100%. They know the Wood family, but my kids, we can take them anywhere because they learned how to behave in public places because that was something we didn't want to change. We wanted to travel, and we wanted to be able to we love food. We're food family for sure. So that's the first thing. Then you brought up the second thing, expectations. What kind of partnership do you guys want to do? What kind of a relationship with his kids does your partner imagine? What kind of relationship with your child do you imagine? What kind of partnership do you guys imagine? Is it a tag team? Is it me? Am I going to breastfeed? Okay, that means it's the me show. So what can he do? Are we bottle feeding? Okay, let's make up. Are we going to do equal? Are we going to split nights so we can do shift work? Coming up with all those things and understanding where he's coming from and where you're coming from so that we can find a happy medium in the middle or figure out what expectations need to be changed so that we can meet each other's expectations. Super important. I think one misstep that's very common is that just like you described, as moms and potentially for breastfeeding, we don't really have a choice but to be on the forefront. We are not, leaving, until we get this milk supply established and we figure out how to pump. And we are going to be there every 2.5 hours where our partner has the luxury of, oh, I'll go run to the store. I'll go do this. I'm going to go back to work earlier. And so because of that, we innately gain the skills and the confidence of being in charge of the child. And I will raise my hand and say this was one of the biggest mistakes I made because in my journey to be the perfect wife, and the perfect mother, I basically handicapped my husband's ability to figure out how to take care of our daughter because I rescued him. And anytime anything was hard, I wanted to save him. I would, do everything during the day and make everything perfect so when he'd come home. And I didn't really realize this until there were some signs, but I thought it was just like, he wasn't confident, whatever. When I first went back to work and was delivering babies, he would get really frustrated when the baby would cry and he had no confidence. But it was really when we had the twins, which was my fourth pregnancy. And I realized that when I needed help and had to ask, he was like, "What is wrong with these babies? They're up all the time." And I was like, "Oh, nothing's wrong. I just always took care of this before." And it was then that I realized that, like, I had actually because once he had to be really involved with the twins, he was really amazing with babies. When he learned how and what they needed, when he wasn't being handicapped by his wife who was trying to do
His
everything
perfect
always.
wife.
Trying, failing, but it was amazing because I had developed a lot of resentment over the years from his lack of involvement, and I blamed it. He's not good at this, he's not good at that, but it's just like you were pointing out. It wasn't because he didn't want to, he was scared. He knew if Candice is here, everything will be fine. If Candice leaves, everything's horrible. I can't take, so I would see him as he's he doesn't want me to have a relationship with friends. He doesn't want me outside of the house. He doesn't like this. He doesn't like that. But it was really, if I'm being honest, built on a lack of confidence in caring for his own children that I allowed him to develop. And recognizing that it's really important. And I tell all my patients now, you need to have, like, you feed the baby if you're breastfeeding, and then you hand it, and I'll see you in 2.5 hours. Like, you got this, I'm napping. And if you got a problem, like, you should only be waking me up if you're thinking about calling 911 because we want him to figure out, or your partner to figure out how to care for the child. And the thing is, it creates a bond way earlier. My husband is an amazing dad and he has connections with all the kids, but I feel like they did not come until he felt confident with their 100% care, which was not till 2.5, 3 maybe. But if you allow that to naturally happen early, they'll have that confidence that they are needed, wanted, and able. And that is super important. I have a lot of patients who are such strong, independent women. Because of where they came from, they've been forced to feel that way, and they make that very apparent to their partners, unfortunately, and their partners know, because they say it quite frequently during arguments, "I don't need you. I could do this completely by myself." That makes a partner withdraw even another step away because she's gonna leave me, she doesn't need me, and so they don't engage and dive in, they pull out further. And I know that's a vulnerable spot to be in, guys, but if you want to have somebody who has your back at all times, if you want to have a partnership raising these children where you actually get to have somebody who supports you through it and that you bounce off ideas about it and that you have the most incredible experiences with, you have to be vulnerable. You have to admit that you'd prefer not to do it by yourself, and that even though you know you could do it by yourself, you sure don't want to. And what you can end up getting, and it's what I feel so blessed with, and I think I'm super blessed because my husband has filmed me talking about these things and edited them. So he is incredibly more attuned to these things than most men, and we were meeting with a new I think it was a new person from our church group, and they asked my husband, "What do you like to do in your free time, Dave?" And he immediately said, "Go to my kids' games and my daughter's ballet dances. That's what we do." And it's like the sweetest thing. I know you, as you are on this precipice of inviting this baby into your home, you're like, "Oh my goodness, this change that it's gonna bring, is it gonna bring us apart? Is it gonna bring us together?" Again, I feel so passionately about if you guys know what is important about you guys, if you guys set the expectations for you guys to work as a team, you're gonna see on the other side that this child is actually what brings you guys so much closer together because all of a sudden there aren't these distractions from the outside world that you guys talk about. It's almost everything for me and most parents with kids, you're talking about them. You're talking about family experiences, what they're doing. I can't remember what me and my husband used to talk about because we love everything about our family, and it is just an incredible experience, and I also have to say that it has been crazy. This last year has been the first time where I've really had this, like, FOMO about going to work because the kids are so fun now. It's not like when I go to work, I get to go help all these women, it's this incredible experience, and I don't miss out on a ton because it's kind of the same thing happening at home. Oh, no, it's not like that anymore. Like, you're at work, you missed out. They're so funny, there's always something new, there's always 8 stories that you missed out on, and they're doing so much. So, buckle up. As long as you guys know what you want to create, you're gonna create it, and this is literally just the opportunity for you guys to harness what really makes you guys amazing, and then give it to the child so that they get to have that platform of what you guys have already created to start with, so that then they create even more amazement in their life and reach even a higher potential than either of you guys. And that's what, we're trying to do in our family and what I encourage every mom to do. And I want to end on the positive note, but we have to be honest, there's a lot of partners who we find out that they weren't really maybe our teammates and they weren't and aren't going to change. And this isn't something that I encourage my moms to suffer in. If we work on some basic things together, like stuff we've talked about a little bit more in detail, they try it, get no response, then I definitely encourage marriage counseling. There aren't always things that we can just fix by our encouragement. And when you are being a good partner and supportive and it's not being met, you need to see how you can make that change, because what I'm never okay with is when a relationship is affecting the way a mom feels about herself and the way that she's able to carry herself and support her children, and that's when we know we have to make a change. I can let my moms put up with a lot, but not when I know it's changing their ability to be the woman and mom that they deserve to be and that they're trying to.
Yeah, that's really the kicker there is that you deserve to have that shows up for you, right? You
Yep.
deserve to have an equal player partner. And it doesn't mean 50-50 every day,
Nope.
all day. Sometimes
Nope.
it's 10 and 90 and 80 and 20. And sometimes you've got a couple of days where you literally just can't show up for
Yep.
yourself or your family or your partner or anything. And that's when it really comes out whether you have a good partner or not. Are they able to step up and take on that role of that, of your household and your runnings? And I feel very lucky to be able to have that. I feel super sad. I mean, just absolutely devastated for women who don't have that. And, throughout the last 10 years, I feel like I've seen so many dynamics and so many shifts. And I've seen couples that I just knew were not going to make it and they came out strong
Yeah.
on the other end, and I just I celebrate those. And then I have couples that I just knew they were going to be fine, and having a baby absolutely destroyed them. And so I think that the that intentional conversation and setting
Yep.
expectations and continued conversation after baby is super important, right? So you
Yes.
can set expectations before baby all you want, but it really is those mini check-ins. It's every morning waking up and saying, okay, what didn't work for you yesterday? How can we make that happen for you today? On both of your ends, your
Yep.
husband's asking you and you're asking your husband. And then at the end of the night saying, okay, today was a little better, but this didn't work today. And I'm hoping that tomorrow we can do things a little bit differently. And you're going to find that the further out postpartum you get, the less you need those check-ins because you'll get into a groove and you'll start to be able to
Yep.
kind of understand your new dynamic. Whether this is your first baby or your fifth baby, you are going to be introducing a new human into the dynamics of this existing family, and it's going to change things. And so I do think that being very intentional and mindful of your communication, not only how often you're doing it and what you're communicating, but how you're communicating that, your communication style is super, super important. And it really does make all the difference. And I wanted to note one thing that you said about rescuing your husband. I think this is a trap that a lot of women fall into, right? It can be really easy to think, well, I'm the only person that can do this for my baby. And child development wise, you guys, I will just let you know your child deserves to have different caregivers. They thrive when they get to interact with different personalities. They are really smart and intuitive and resilient, and they will learn who to go to for what. They will be able to know that dad cuts the crust off of their peanut butter and jelly and mom never does. And they will be able to know that when I fall, mom's going to give me a hug and dad is going to tell me to brush it off. And they are going to figure out who they go to for which situation. They'll be safe with both of you, but
Yep.
they will definitely develop these preferences. And I'm here to tell you it's healthy. That is evidence,
Mhm.
that is data driven, it is studied, and we know that children do better when they have multiple caregivers that have differing personalities and differing approach
Mhm.
and
I love it.
differing responses. So let your husband, let your partner be the parent that they're meant to be. Let them swaddle that baby as long as it's safe in the way that they want to swaddle. Let them put your baby down in the way that they need to put them to sleep or they feel most confident. Let them coddle and respond to your baby in the way that they do when they fall. You don't need to swoop in and rescue them. And you're not just robbing your partner of that, you're actually robbing your child as well. And I know, listen, I am such a rescuer. I am such like a anal retentive, oldest daughter, Aries person, perfectionist from top to bottom. I want things done my way. And I've learned over the years that everybody, even me, we all fare better when you can relinquish a little control. Your partner will be better for it. You will be better for it. Your home and your household runnings
Yep.
and your baby will be better for it. So try really hard not to swoop in. And if you do, something that I have found really helpful that doesn't put your partner on defense and it doesn't make you feel like you are taking over is to simply say, I've got two phrases that I love to say. Do you want my help? And let them say no. If they say no,
Mhm.
that's your cue to say, okay,
Yep.
I trust you to have it. And if you don't want to offer help and you really need to say something, a really great way to approach this is to say, one way that I would do this, or when
Mhm.
I do this, it works really well when and then you share what has worked for you.
Yep.
But try not to overstep. Let them be the parent. Your baby will really thrive in that, I promise.
Oh, you're 100% right. I love all of that. It's so true. And I think when we think about our upbringing and all the people that color us and, that made us into the way people we are, if it was just one person, like, wow, it'd be very stark, like
Mm.
the person that I'd be, and my mom is lovely, but if she was the only person who colored me, it'd be stark compared to all the things that I've learned from all the people around me, and so it just makes so much sense the way you're saying it, but we can empower that, and we can also handicap it like I was guilty of.
And it's hard. Look, I'm not saying that you're going to have to, you're not going to have to bite your tongue or you're not going to have to literally get up and leave into
Leave.
the other
Yep.
room. You're not going to have to put in your earbuds because it's taken your partner a lot longer to soothe your baby than it ever
Mhm.
takes you. But do those things, right? Do what
Yep.
you need to pour back into yourself. Take that time to refill your own bucket.
Yep.
Maybe that's the time that you
Go
call
take
your
a
best
shower.
friend. Totally. Maybe that's the time that you go on a run. Maybe that's the time that you run out and run your errands and let your partner be with your baby and let them just exist together and get to know each other and build that bond between themselves because they do deserve that just as
Yep.
much as you and your baby deserve that as well. Oh my
100%.
gosh. Okay, my last question is we've done all the things, we've set the expectations beforehand. We thought we had shared what we needed postpartum, and our partners just aren't showing up. Could you give us a quick script of how we might be able to approach them without putting them on the defense and without feeling like we're nagging? That's something that I struggle with in my relationship is I never want to be this nagging wife. I never want to be the nitpicker that says, well, that was okay, but I wish it had been done a different way. But in reality, I know that I'll be mentally more sound and my mind will be at ease. I'll be able to be happier if it was done a little differently. So, what is a good approach to sit our partner down and say, hey, not right now because I see you're busy, but at some point tonight, could we chat? When we get to that chat, what are we saying?
So what I like to do is I believe in being honest completely. It's always the best policy. And so the fact of the matter, the little script I'm going to give you is about being really honest. And what I like you to say is, I listened to this podcast. I saw Dr. Wood today. That I saw her today. And she told me that one of the biggest things she sees postpartum is that relationships, there's struggles in them, like 100% across the board. And she said it's because it's a transition point, and whether it's the first kid, second kid, third point, it's always a transition point. And whenever there's a transition in life, there's like a reassessment of needs because you and I are not the same person anymore. So I wasn't a mom before, you weren't a dad, now I'm a mom and a dad, or we were a mom to one kid, now we have two. And so I have different needs. And it was crazy when I was thinking about it when she said it, like it's so true. And I hadn't realized that I probably need to be loved differently because I have this huge new role that now is like more important to me potentially than all my other roles that you were loving me in. And then I realized, oh my goodness, him too. Like you have these new stresses as a dad and trying to figure out how we can still reach our goals and meet our needs, and you probably need to be loved differently. And so I was so happy that she said that, and she said that the most important thing we can do is we can sit down and think after we've had a chance to think about what our needs might be and how we need to be loved now. And she said, it's not like we know immediately because we're just in these new roles. So we might need to give ourselves a hot second and we need to reserve the right to change it. But she said that it's a good idea to come up with 3 very specific needs and talk about them and commit to doing those things. And then she thinks it's a great idea if we do a monthly check-in where we like maybe order food if we can't go out, or we just sit down together and we talk about finances, talk about goals, talk about baby, and then talk about, are your needs, are those 3 you're still what you want? Am I doing a pretty good job at them? Or do you reserve the right to change one of them? And that's how I go about it. And then the next question for my patient is always, well, how do you figure out the needs, Dr. Wood? And I said, from my experience and my patient's experience, the easiest way to come up with them is figure out when you were most annoyed with your partner.
Mm.
And then recognize, what do I wish he had done? And one of my best examples from my own life is my husband, when he went back to work. And again, I was manning the ship very happily because I was trying to be perfect. So it was fine. Everything was great. But he would call on his way home from work and he'd say, Candice, send me what you want at the grocery store. I'll stop and get the groceries. And I would send him the list in my 100% annoyed state. And because I wanted him to come relieve me of the 82 children I'd been taking care of all day, not spend another 45 minutes to an hour at the store. I wanted to go to the store. I needed that break. And I also knew that he was slower at the store. And so it just meant he was going to be gone longer. And so for me, that's a one thing where it was obvious for me to say, I want you to come home from work, and a couple days of the week, like, I would like to leave the house at that point and go run an errand or do something. That is a specific thing I needed. And another thing I realized, not and again until it happened, but I share this all the time because I feel like it's not just me. I had a lot of resentment, feeling like my life changed 100%, his changed like 5%. And then one day, and in the resentment, I'm noticing all the things he does wrong all the time, which like now it's comical, but like everything he did bugged me because I was resenting his role in our family. Then one day he said to me, Candice, I am so lucky that you're the mom of our children. You are such a good mom. And it was 100% sincere, and it was 100% healing. And I'm getting emotional
Yeah.
because what I realized, one of my new needs in the relationship and how I needed to be loved was that he felt like I was a good mom. Because guess what? I cared about that more than I cared about being a good doctor, more than I cared about being a good at keeping the house clean. And it was crazy because after that point, literally for 2, 3, 4 months, all that stuff that drove me nuts that he was doing, it did not change, but I didn't care because my needs were being met. And that's the true fact about relationships. We don't need a Prince Charming who does no wrong. We need our needs met. And so, again, we don't always recognize our needs, especially during this transition. But as we work towards figuring out those needs and then communicating them, and again, as we started this script, it involved them doing the same thing. Because if we have a real relationship, it's not just about us. Yeah, it's true. And I would say this, my husband knows this. My life changed way more when the babies came. And so did I maybe have more needs? Yeah. But when I write the script, I make it even because that's received better. But if we don't recognize that their lives changed, recognize that they need to still feel important as they see their wife throwing her whole soul into this baby and feeling completely neglected, which can happen a lot, we need to recognize that they have needs too. And they'll be different than ours. And that's how it should be. And we can work together to keep that line of communication to where, it's just the most incredible thing. And I struggle with it so many times when I see, just like you've seen, relationships that don't aren't working out, because I just wish I could get into their heads and minds and souls and say, guys, there is nothing in this world that will bring more happiness than having somebody have your back completely. The safety and the peace that brings and the love and joy that brings. There is no job, there is no money, there is no accomplishment in life that can exceed that. And I remember when I was listening to some podcast, I can't remember, but it was a man who said, when I'm looking for somebody to be friends with, to partner with in business, I always have utmost, and I'm not phrasing this correctly, but more respect for a man who has been married to one woman and kept that same woman happy for 10 plus years, because that is the hardest thing to do, but also the most worthy thing to do. And so so it's so frustrating sometimes because I see these young couples where one or the other partner that doesn't get that if you make these sacrifices, you learn how to love and value somebody. That is the greatest gift you can give yourself, and of course, your baby.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I consider myself so lucky to have the husband that I have. And like I say, well, my listeners know that we dated for 9.5 years before we got married. So we were able to build this really strong relationship before we even kind of took on the permanentness of
Yep.
marriage, if you will. Although we knew from day one, we knew from the day that we met. I mean, I went home from meeting him
Whoa.
and I said, I'm going to marry this guy. And I think somewhere along the way, in those almost 10 years, I think some people definitely questioned that of, are they ever going to get married? I never once questioned it. We did things, a little untraditional. We moved to a different city together right off the bat within 2 years of dating. And we have changed jobs. I started my business. My business has grown. My husband has grown in his career. We have lost loved ones. We have had hard times. We've had amazing times. We've traveled. We bought a house. Then we got married. So we didn't follow the traditional route that I think a lot of people have envisioned for themselves or maybe even followed themselves. But for us, it was exactly what we needed and it was right for us. And I'm just so grateful to have him by my side as I embark on this new journey. And it's something that I
You're
know.
ready for it.
Yeah, I am. I'm very excited to see him become a dad. I'm really excited to see our family dynamic change, although I would be lying if I said that I wasn't at least a little scared about it. But I am excited, and I do think that once we're in it, I will be able to look back on all these tears that I've shed and say, that was so silly to cry about those things. I knew we were
Yep.
going to be okay all along, but there is just something about the unknown that is, a little unsettling. It shakes you up, or it does me at least. I like to know. I'm a very big planner, and so I think that some of the unknown is a little unsettling for me, but I'm excited to embark on this journey. Dr. Wood, this was so good. I could not have even imagined that this episode was going to be as deep and just like soulful and fulfilling as this. I didn't expect anything less, but I didn't really know what to expect. As everyone knows, I don't come to these episodes with any expectations. I just assume that whoever is on the other end of this line with me will share what whoever is listening needs to hear. And I just trust that the paths that need to be crossed will cross at this show and on this show. And I am sure grateful for you showing up for me today and just diving into these hard taboo topics and things that I think a lot of people shy away from, but they're so important because
So
so
important.
many of us struggle postpartum. And not only do we not know what the answers are or where to turn, but we find that a lot of people are scared to dive into this. They're scared to
Yep.
have these conversations, even though so many of us are craving this information and craving this type of guidance to help repair our relationships and help us get on a better path postpartum and
Yep.
help us find our voice again. And so I just wanted to thank you for being here. If people wanted to learn from you, connect with you, work with you, how can they do that?
Well, my clinic is in Arizona, and so you can definitely come see me for a one-on-one consult in Arizona at my clinic, which is called Woman Made Well. I also have a podcast with the same name and talk about a lot of topics just revolving around motherhood, pregnancy, postpartum, and everything around any of those topics. I have a course that is a postpartum course, kind of what we created to offer my kind of go at that for women who aren't in Arizona. It was really hard because I'm such a I don't know if you're the same way. It was hard for me to think about making something that's so individual global, and my husband challenged me to do it, and so we created a course that I really think helps women through that transition to really empower herself and restore her mental well-being postpartum. So that course is available at Woman Made Well as well. And, there'll be some things in the future, but that's where you can reach me. And I'm eager and excited to figure out ways to have one-on-one consults more globally and looking at potentially expanding my medical license so that I can do that. But it's been an honor to meet you. It's like such a gift what you're giving to the community. And I like cannot even wait to find out about how your transition goes and would love to be any part of it. You call me back if you have any questions about anything, labor and delivery, that's my baby, and everything after. So I wish you the best of luck. I just know it's going to be a transition for you that's not one that you're gonna look back and say, "I didn't do that well." You're gonna look back as the springboard for this incredible life that you and your partner have chosen to create, and I can't wait to find out about it.
Thank you so much. All right, you guys, I'm not going to cry. I have to be done crying. All of my makeup has been cried completely off. Dr. Candice, I love to hear that you serve in a women population. You are a woman serving women, and your partner, your husband, still plays a role at pushing you and challenging you and nudging you to be
Yes,
better, be
he
bigger,
definitely does.
think bigger and serve more people. I just love that so much. All right, you guys. Thanks for coming on today's talk with us. I know that I have gotten so much out of this. I hope that you're walking away with not one, not two, but a handful of tidbits of information that will help change your postpartum. I hope you feel more confident, not only in yourself and taking on postpartum, but how can you actually engage your partner and get them to support you in the way that you need? How can you show up for yourself and for your partner? How can you reach out for help if you find that you're ever in a place where you're struggling and you know there's something better out there for you? I love you all so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Be sure to follow Dr. Candice on social media, and you can find me at Tranquility by HeHe and at the.birth.lounge. Until next time, head to your app store and download the Birth Lounge app for evidence-based childbirth education and data-driven postpartum support delivered straight to your phone. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I love hanging out with you, and it is an honor to be your go-to gal when it comes to preparing for your baby. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a 5-star review and tell others why they should be listening to the Birth Lounge podcast too. You deserve to have a birth that you love with a provider that values your autonomy and respects informed consent without all the trauma that you so commonly hear about on social media. New episodes air every Wednesday and Friday. Hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. I'm HeHe, and this is the Birth Lounge Podcast.